So this is the most critical element. All along we've been talking about cost and policies and the role of the government with regards to ensuring that there's enough support from the policymakers for the future of electrification. We know that path towards zero emission is imminent, and this is if there's any other sector but this which needs a strong participation of public and private together. And to talk about how the government, especially at the state government level, can facilitate the stakeholders and how private players would like to accelerate in this future of zero emission. We'll have a session now, and to begin with, I'd like to ask Mr. Vishnu, what's your assessment? Tamil Nadu as a state is a leading state when it comes to ICE manufacturing. When it comes to electric vehicles, how different are you approaching the route for the future, and what role can the state governments play when Centre has already defined a roadmap?
Before I begin, let me just introduce myself. I'm Vishnu. I'm the MD and CEO of Guidance. Not sure how many of you have heard of the organization called Guidance. Guidance is the India's oldest investment promotion agency. So basically, we facilitate all the investments that flows into Tamil Nadu, and we've had a fair bit of success in the EV space. So that's the reason probably I'm being seated here. On that context, let me just tell you that TN has always been, we've been touted as the auto capital. We export cars to 169 countries across the world. We do have a very strong auto as well as auto component, starting from the Hyundais of the world to pretty much you name it, every single OEM has, or the component has some sort of presence in the TN. But what we saw over the last 3-4 years is a very, very interesting combination of two inherent strengths of Tamil Nadu. One, 3-decade-old strength in auto and auto components. But off late, in the last decade, what we have seen is emerging as electronics. Today, TN is the largest exporter of electronic components. $5.37 billion worth of electronics components is what we export, the highest in the country, thanks to multiple big names like Apple and so on and so forth. But having said that, auto plus electronics is a deadly combination, and I think that is the heart and soul of what an EV ecosystem is built. Now, fortunately for us, the EV story is not centered only around Chennai. We have been successful in moving this cluster outside Chennai also. Hosur is emerging as a very, very strong ecosystem for the EV growth story. So is the southern parts of Tamil Nadu and the central parts of Tamil Nadu and Trichy. So I think it overall plays in the strength of Tamil Nadu's diversified growth story, and definitely in the days to come, we will hear of more investments into the EV space. Last couple of years alone, we will have almost 40,000 crore plus worth of EV investments in all three verticals: OEMs, the component, as well as the battery space. Pretty much every single big player in the EV space is there. 40% of EV production, 68% of EV two-wheeler manufacturing happens in the state of Tamil Nadu. So I think we are poised to leverage the inherent strengths of the state in the direction. Thank you.
The penetration is still, we are at a very nascent stage at this point in time, Mr. Vishnu, and there's already defined roadmap by the central government with regards to FAME, PLI, and phase manufacturing plan. State government on its part has acted as a strong facilitator all along. What is it that Tamil Nadu state offers to various manufacturers that makes it a very attractive destination?
So in the March of 2023, this year, we released the Tamil Nadu electric vehicle policy, a revamped version of the TNEV policy, which I believe has added further impetus to the already incoming investments. And what we have done is a two-pronged approach, both supply side as well as demand side interventions. On the supply side, there are standard incentives packages which we offer, very, very attractive, very, very customized. More than attractive, I would say Tamil Nadu's strength in the policy framework has always been coming out with customized packages for the needs of the customer or the clients. I think that's been our strength. I wouldn't want to get into the details of the policies. I'm sure most of you are aware of it. It's available on the internet. Please go through the policy framework. But more importantly, this time we have induced demand-side interventions also, which I believe is critical to enhance the fleet absorption rate for the EVs, including classifying 6 cities in the state as EV cities. A very, very focused, targeted approach. So I would recommend the audience here to please go through the Tamil Nadu EV policy and look at there is something in it for each one of you who are attending this panel discussion. Thank you.
Just one last thing before I move to the private players here. One of the big thought that the industry always has is the long-term roadmap and a clear policy direction. At the center, we've seen, some changes over the last few years. But from a Tamil Nadu government side, what do you think about the continuity and the long-term vision?
If you look at the Tamil Nadu growth story, it's been policy stability has been our very, very significant driver for investments. We have a policy consistency and stability across regimes, across different governments in power. Never before have we gone back on the promises made by a previous government in terms of policy stability. So I think that holds. As far as the EV is concerned, the Government of India guidelines are an overarching framework in which the state government does a top-up in terms of the supply-side intervention. For the demand side, it's a slightly medium to long-term story that we need to play. Right. Because it has got behavioral changes to be induced. There are some total of multiple factors that we need to take into account. Government is only one player in the whole transition to EV space. Manufacturing, yes, we've been extremely successful. On the fleet conversion, yes, there's more to be done. But that's more of a mindset, attitude, and a whole set of other factors also, social factors also come into play.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Seth, Reliance is the largest conglomerate in the country, and they understand the energy business better than most. As the nation or the world transitions towards a zero-emission space, according to you, what is the path, and what are your expectations from the policymakers, given the fact that it is going to call for billions of dollars of investment?
Thanks, Ketan. I think since it's an EV conclave, but I still speak about new energy. So sure. I think the way you have to look at it, when it comes to policy, it has to be good for all the 3 stakeholders. One is the OEM, which is one stakeholder who's producing, and the suppliers. Second is the state government, which is going to popularize it, collect taxes. And third is the customer from the demand side. I think the policy has to be balanced for all the 3 stakeholders so that it is consistent. And it has to be long-term. When you say long-term, the OEM will invest money to localize, to ensure that whatever he's trying to do has a view, because many of them are public limited companies. They need to have a longer-term view of the investments. And therefore, whatever subsidies or incentives government gives should be in a way that the OEM is able to localize, and then customer sees a confidence. Knee-jerk reaction always kills the demand, which happened recently in many of the places. Second thing, central government should try to ensure, with speaking to states, that it is consistent across at least most of the states. We see a lot of incentives, some positive from some states, some places don't happen. Now, coming to your new energy space, we always feel that India imports $100 billion worth of oil every year. Even if we take 10% off that oil, it's $10 billion. So that's the amount of saving you will do besides pollution and net carbon zero targets. So I think the way EV will work, will 2-wheeler, 3-wheelers, maybe to LCV to some extent cars. I'm not in a personal favor of buses be going EV. I think the buses and trucks should be hydrogen route that is much more efficient than EV for longer, bigger trucks. Now, big companies have, as a part of National Green Hydrogen Mission and EV FAME, are trying to work around this. But I think there is some challenges in terms of some knee-jerk reactions happening. Therefore, there is a withdrawal happening from the consumer side, and similarly, a lot of people have withdrawn investments to say, should we do it or should we not do? Coming back to your EV issue, and I'll touch EV and hydrogen both. 40% of we all discussed in the previous 2 panels is the battery price. Cells have to be made in India, therefore PLI scheme is good. But I think the one thing which all companies are struggling is the raw material for the cells. Not easy to get raw material for long term, 5 years, 10 years, because most of the mines in the world are cornered by certain set of companies. Similarly, for hydrogen, how do you produce green hydrogen? Gray is easily doable, therefore electrolyzers. So I think from a big conglomerate, and governments has to really push with the private sector, government sector, to ensure the cells come on time. B, the hydrogen is produced for bigger trucks and buses on time, and therefore infrastructure, whether charging stations or it is hydrogen dispensing station on the highways to be done. And from government side, the expectation is stay on a policy, because in China is a very good example. Moment you had a withdrawal of policy, the sales again fall back. Stay on a course, give everybody a roadmap, and then let people start investing. This is a long-term capex game. May not be returns, may not come for 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, but this is the need of the hour to save $100 billion worth of fuel which you are buying.
Right. So consistency and long-term clarity is what will help, and probably harmonization of policies at the state level may probably add up to other level of benefits from the overall ecosystem perspective. Mr. Gopalakrishnan, Hyundai has been in the state for over 20 years and has contributed a lot to the state. Mr. Vishnu spoke about the consistency in the policy. You have committed over 10,000 crores for EVs, or more, I think 20,000 crores, 20,000 crore for EVs. Hyundai has had a global lead. There's a lot of talk about circularity as well. While your factory will churn out electric vehicles, what about the circularity element of it, the green manufacturing part of it? From a manufacturing footprint perspective, what are the evolutionary changes that you've done, and what support do you think a state government could offer in that arena so that eventual goal of net carbon zero is attained?
Thank you. Hyundai, right now we are offering two products, Kona and Ioniq. We have got a very tremendous response for the both products. And as you rightly said, last May, we could sign an MOU with Tamil Nadu government. We are going to invest around 20,000 crores over a period of 10 years. And we are going to build a battery system assembly plant in Chennai, Sri Perumbudur, which can cater around 175,000 units in capacity. So guidance has been supporting a lot, and with their support, we are taking our journey forward. With respect to the green manufacturing practices, we have been implementing various global best practices, which we take it from our global best plans. Specifically, in the scope 1 and scope 2, we could reduce around 38% emission over a period of last 5 years, which amounts to almost 1 lakh tons of CO2.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So in the scope 1, around 3,600 tons of equivalent energy we could reduce, and which is contribute around 16% in the scope 1 alone. By implementing various, methodologies, waste heat recovery, we have got regenerative thermal oxidizer in paint shop, or implementing magnetic resonator in the ovens, or applying ceramic coating in the ovens, which can reduce the energy. So this is about scope 1. With respect to scope 2, almost 9,000 tons of oil equivalent we have reduced over last 5 years, which amounts to 42% reduction in the last 5 years. So by again efficient energy management system, whether it is 100% implementation of LEDs or energy efficient motors, so all these put together, we're able to take the journey in scope 1 and scope 2 reduction very well. And with respect to renewable energy, right now we stand at 64%. So 5% from the in-house 10 megawatt solar units, and close to 54% be from biomass, other outside agencies. So right now we stand at 64%. We are aiming at to touch 100% RE in the year 2025.
2025. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And other green manufacturing practice, to be specific, right now the consumption of water, 80% we are able to source from in-house by rainwater harvesting and recycling and reusing the water. Almost close to 30% reduction of water usage we could reduce over the period of last 5 years.
Fantastic.
So we got 6 ponds, which around rainwater harvesting ponds. So close to 350,000 tons it can store, so which amounts around 120 days we can cater. So all these best practices we are closely monitoring by means of implementing various, global energy management systems, digital solutions. We got digital dashboards for effective monitoring. So all these best practices are helping us to achieve our carbon neutrality goals. We are aiming at zero carbon neutrality by 2045. Yeah.
By?
2045.
2045.
Yeah.
Mr. Vishnu, does circularity come into element with pressures on net zero in the future? When you look at the roadmap from a state government side, where can you support? And what are the challenges that you've seen the industry face at this point in time, and how have you been able to kind of address some of the pain areas?
So there are 4 pillars which the state government looks as very critical in the EV ecosystem. First is the OEMs. Definitely we need more investments from the OEMs because they generate jobs. Second is the component manufacturers for the overall EV ecosystem. Third is the battery and the charging infrastructure. And fourth pillar is circularity. So we've taken cognizance of the fact that circularity will be a critical pillar. So these are the 4 pillars under which the government is looking at, not just from an investment standpoint of view, but also in terms of how to develop the ecosystem. So yes, if your straight answer to your question is, we have taken that factor into account. Just for the, highlighting a few strengths of the state in the overall scheme of climate change and the net zero, what we're talking is that TN has an installed capacity of around 16 to 17 gigawatt of green power, which is one of the highest in the whole country. And this is a very compelling factor when we look at the overall investments. So it is only natural for the state to think about circularity. These are emerging concepts, but in the coming years, definitely you will hear more of it from the government side.
What are the pain areas that you've seen? We've seen over the last 4 years, a significant part of two-wheeler EV manufacturing has come to Tamil Nadu. And when there are future capacities coming up and people are exploring multiple states, so what are the pain areas that you think companies have that TN addresses?
In terms of manufacturing?
Manufacturing, sir.
Well, I think, like I said, the policy which looks at a tailor-made, customized solutions. I think that's what our biggest strength being. Guidance is, like I said, the oldest investment promotion agency. We closely work with the company to identify their strengths and what is it that works best for them. We also have an exclusive future mobility park, which is coming up in near Hosur. Again, one more mobility park is coming up north of Chennai. So these are some of the things that we have done. Tailor-made solutions, because we understand that a standalone land parcel or standalone industrial ecosystem is not going to work. We need a cluster facility. We have been fairly successful on that in the electronics and the auto front. So it's natural for us to transition that into the EV space, which is why concepts like this, again, plug and play is something which we are trying out with the MSMEs in the state. The first multi-storied plug and play facility for the MSMEs is being conceived and conceptualized by the MSME department in TN. So I think a very progressive, the needs of the industry and a demand-based intervention is, I would say, the single standpoint which TN scores over the other states. And when I say states, I would highlight that TN is essentially in competition with other regional economies of the world. We're not strictly in competition with other states per se. When I talk about TN, I'm in competition with Malaysia, I'm in competition with Vietnam. When global companies look of entering the country in India, there are 2-3 standard state options they have. So essentially it is looking at, can I move the supply chain out from existing regional economies and not necessarily within an intra-country movement. So I think these are the international factors also that we see. And we see a successful, fair bit of success in looking at on an international level in attracting investments, especially in the EV space.
Right. So, with the evolution of the segment, the skill sets that are needed is going to be one of the critical elements. I'd like to first ask Mr. Gopalakrishnan about, as you move towards cleaner, greener vehicle manufacturing, what are the kind of skill sets or, what capabilities would you need? And, what is it that you would want the state government or the universities here to churn out to ensure that the workforce that comes out eventually addresses the future need of connected and zero emission space?
Yeah, skill set basically the battery technology or the power systems or power electronics specifically or the materials or any sustainability practices. Nowadays the cars are more connected cars. You have, software engineering and more security features. Uh, uh, we have tied up with IIT Chennai, IIT Delhi to train our managers and engineers, tailor-made, customized course, and we are upskilling our employees. One more thing, with the support of guidance and World Economic Forum, the Tamil Nadu government is going to, install advanced manufacturing hub in Chennai for advanced manufacturing practices and sustainability. We are also partnering with Tamil Nadu government. Various digital solutions, sustainability practices. So what I was suggesting that we can have some kind of assessment how mature the industry, whether it is MSME or big OEMs, what level of level they have. So some kind of assessment tool methodology, or what they can support. How can they bring the global best practices which are available in the domain, which can be implemented in the industry. At the same time, some of the best practices in Tamil Nadu or in India, which can be transferred to other globe as well. And some kind of technical trainees. Recently, Tamil Nadu government has a tie-up with some of the other OEMs to convert the ITIs into a special skill center. So particularly in the EV related. So already guidance and Tamil Nadu government they are supporting a lot. I think working with a close coordination, we'll be able to take the journey forward.
So is there a dedicated skill set program that the state has come out with? Because we're talking about, you already are electronics hub and you're seeking investment in the R&D. What exactly are you doing on the skill set front?
Before that, how many of in this audience are mechanical engineers? Okay, that's close to 60%. Okay, you're in for a shock. The entire EV curriculum has got nothing to do with your first two chapters, which is the internal combustion engine. So it gives a little bit of a shocker that whatever you learned in your college has absolutely no relevance in the industry, which is an opportunity that we see as a government. We see the opportunity that, myself, I did mechanical engineering. In fact, my first job was in Maruti Suzuki, which I didn't take up for that matter. So the whole thought that whatever that you learned in the 4 years for your internal combustion engine is not going to be relevant for your job that you're going to take up itself is a kind of a very, very disturbing scenario, which means the entire academic space, not just higher education, but also the spectrum starting from vocational to the higher education needs to reorient, I would say unlearn completely. Wow. Because at the end of the day, EV space is about electronics, the motor, transmission, and that's it. The entire IC engine is irrelevant, which means the bulk of it is irrelevant, what you learned for 4 years of engineering. But thankfully, the government has, again, taken note of it. We do have a working platform with IIT Madras that's on the higher end of the skilling spectrum. But on the vocational spectrum has been, again, a big forte for the TN, the ITIs and the diplomas. Strongly recommend those of you who have not visited the ITIs of late, you should visit. All the 71 of the government ITIs in the state has been converted into state-of-the-art support with the Tata Group. Tata has invested close to 2,500 crores of rupees to transform the ITIs at scale. So I think the ITI and the IIT system, which is the vocational to the higher education spectrum, we've taken cognizance of that too. So we realize that there's a whole lot of unlearning process that we do. And India's largest flagship skilling program, which is called the Naan Mudalvan, which is our Honorable Chief Minister's pet project, I would say the dream project, tries to address this new age skill set demands from the industry. So yes, the state is really keeping up pace with what the industry demands.
Mr. Seth, you represent new energy business, and when you worked in the internal combustion engine side for over 3 decades, when you transitioned and when you saw the new team that you are putting in place and the skill set that is out there, how much of a challenge is it at this point in time, given the huge quantum of investment that is needed?
I think the first thing, everybody is speaking about reskilling the people. I think what India needs is to be ahead of the curve what globe is trying to do. I think what we're trying to do in India just now is to just to say, how can I localize which some other country is trying to do in an EV vehicle domain or anything. I think India has always been, at least in this stage, we are on the same level as many other global countries. So I think India has to take a forward step to say, can I be ahead of the curve vis-a-vis, otherwise I'll be just copying what somebody is doing. I'm trying to localize and trying to make it in India. I'll give an example, and that is where skill comes in. When we were looking at hydrogen as a truck, which is very close to new energy in a vehicle, world was moving towards fuel cell vehicle. Fuel cell as a truck or a bus in India is going to be 5 times the cost of a diesel truck or a bus. Our team came out with a solution to say, can I make hydrogen combustion engine directly pumping hydrogen into the vehicle? This is the first time in the world there are 24 trucks and buses running on the road, which nobody in the world could do. So I think what we have to do, the same thing in the EV place. Can we do something which is a solution our IITs or any other R&D facility, which government should as a policy to encourage to come ahead of the curve? Why did we establish, let's say, our own Reliance New Energy Center in Bangalore? One of the thing was talent. Because this industry, whether it is hydrogen industry or EV industry, is very close to software. Right. It is about data, it is about electronics, because your engine is missing, gearbox is missing, many things are missing in the vehicle. If you try to do both same EV or hydrogen in a traditional way, you will end up making a modified vehicle of a vehicle rather than born EV or a born hydrogen trucks. I think I'll still say talent is critical. India has limited resources to understand, because our curriculum or R&D investment in many places is very low. We are just trying to copy and then localize it. I think what we need as a country is to say, can we spend more money on R&D? At this stage, we can do better than many places in the world. So I think skill is very important, and government should invest into many advanced courses in IITs and the premier institutes which we have, to say, can we develop more R&D engineers for the technology?
Right. Mr. Vishnu, do you agree that, probably we carve our own path in this journey, and India has always been a cost champion when it comes to ICE, and world look towards India for, low-cost development and R&D. Do you think this presents an opportunity, like Mr. Seth was mentioning, probably, there's very little difference between Indians and the global OEMs when it comes to EVs. So probably, time for us to kind of create our own roadmap and have our own innovative projects and R&D champions. And Dr. Raja spoke about, how TN also wants to be the R&D hub for EVs.
So there's been a conscious effort from the government side also to move up the value chain, because the labor arbitrage can only go as far. It cannot take you to the top level. And TN is reaching a stage where we need to move up the value chain. What we have seen over the last few months is testimony to that. Our Honorable Minister also highlighted that Hitachi opened its largest R&D campus. Hitachi Energy opened its largest R&D campus in the world in Chennai. UPS opened their largest technology development center. These are not back-end offices. These are proper captive technology development centers. And what we see, and Coherent, again, very, very important company, a US company in the semiconductor space. Coherent started its first lab in India within the IIT Madras Research Park. So an IIT Madras Research Park is one of the only such ecosystems in the whole country. And by sheer virtue of having a high-end R&D institutions, we are able to attract investments in many ways. So given the fact that Chennai is naturally positioned, or I would say Tamil Nadu in general, we are also envisaging, or we are ambitioning ourselves to move up the value chain. I think R&D is a natural focus that we will turn. So I totally agree with this statement that we need to move up the chain.
Fantastic. When we talk of policy and regulation, insurance is a critical part of the overall ecosystem, and probably amongst the most regulated as well. Sachin, if I can bring you in, what has been your assessment with regards to EVs and ICE, and how do consumers view it, and how has been the experience with regards to what are the challenges you also face when it comes to the electric vehicle space?
So when I start, if you have to talk about the risk assessment in terms of pricing of the premium for EV vehicles. These standard primary risk assessment factors that go into an ICE are basically the cost of the vehicle, the age of the vehicle, whether it is new vehicle or an old vehicle, which part of the country it is being sold, what's the claim history. So these are a couple of key parameters. And in addition to these parameters, for EVs, additional factors like the battery, the capacity of the battery, motor, the entire battery management system, and the charging infrastructure. So these have added into the risk parameters for pricing from an insurance perspective. From a experience perspective, when we started off writing EVs a couple of years back, we all presumed that since the usage of these vehicles will be low, right, the running will be low, the claims experience might be better. But contra to it, if you look at an insurance, the claims ratio or the loss ratios as a primary factor, there are two key ingredients. One is the frequency, that is how many vehicles you write, say out of 100, how many claims you have experienced, that's frequency. And second is the average claim size. So when we see the ICE versus EV, to our surprise, the frequency for EVs has been, is multiple times as compared to ICE. So if I have to say car, it's almost 1.5 times. If I have to see two-wheelers, it's almost 3 times, right? So what it also projects to us, there's a lot of things that we need to, all the stakeholders need to do in terms of educating the customer. So as insurers, as OEMs, to create a ecosystem where the frequency come down, right? That's point one. The average claim size has been higher. That's because there are no child parts. So if you look at the key components in EV is basically one, the battery, and second, the motor and the entire battery management. It constitutes almost 65% of the total vehicle cost. And there are no child parts to it, right? Yeah. There is no part repairability available at this point of time. While the entire EV landscape is rapidly evolving, but it's still at a nascent stage, and while the development is still happening across, in order to bring down the cost of insurance, the cost of claim to the insurers as well as to the customers, there is a clear and a dire need to create more child parts in regards to this high-cost products like the batteries and the motors.
So absolutely. So localization is critical. Probably in this, while we talk about the overall cost dynamics, the TCO that everyone tries to talk about two-wheelers, is insurance in a way, because of the high import content, sort of a dark horse, or I mean, I would say a dark gray area that people are not aware of, and does that put the cost of life cycle at threat?
So the overall cost in India as compared to the European countries is anyways cheaper. If you look at the European markets or the Western countries, the cost of insurance is anywhere in the range of 6 to 8%. Whereas in India, that cost is already hit 1.5% of the total vehicle cost. So from an understanding perspective, a lot of external parameters, so most of the customers or the general public is aware about what's covered in the motor insurance. So there's nothing much to do about into it. But overall, from an EV perspective, yes, I agree to it. Some level of education needs to be done in terms of to create a proper usage of the product in the open market.
Right. Mr. Seth, we talk about life cycle, in the ownership. While it's more of a commercial term, does a lay consumer is all that vary? While we all know that Indian consumer is smart, but the life cycle ownership, the total cost of ownership, and also the entire value chain when it comes to ecosystem as well. I would like to understand your point of view about where does the TCO lie for a common man, and when you look at the overall ecosystem, where are the loopholes?
I think don't look at the scenario today. Let me say cut 3 years from now, 2 years from now. Today electricity, let's say, is 13 rupees per kilowatt. Tomorrow, if the solar energy comes into picture, the electricity comes down to 6 rupees, 5 to 6 rupees. The TCO today, let's say, per kilowatt, people are being charged anything between 35 rupees per kilowatt. But logically, if you go by 2025 scenario, if this comes down to 20 to 25, the EV adoption will jump. Now, it requires infrastructure. It requires new energy coming into the charging station. People are charging in a mud. So today, consumer is very worried about the cost of the battery, the cost of two-wheeler, the cost of charging, and the resale value of the vehicle, which finance companies are very worried about. If you solve this ecosystem between vehicle to battery to charging station to resale value, this has to be solved either by some company as an ecosystem or individual pieces, but they have to be connected to each other.
Right.
Now look at the insurance as an example. Logically, the difference between new energy vehicle and a telecom or telephone is nothing same. It's a data. If you are able to capture this data in this value chain, actually insurance for an EV vehicle will be much lesser per customer because he's capturing every 2 seconds of data. If he's driving less, he should pay less insurance. If he's driving more, he should pay more insurance. Today, because they are not talking to each other, these 4 individual pieces are not talking to each other, there is a confusion in mind of all stakeholders. The finance company is charging more interest rate, insurance companies are charging more charges, electricity companies, some state is 13 rupees, some state is 6 rupees, some state 8 rupees. I think the whole ecosystem have to get developed, have to come together, and if this thing comes together, TCO of any day, a EV vehicle or an hydrogen vehicle will be much lower than ICE vehicle.
Right.
Problem is every stakeholder is suspicious of the other.
Right.
And therefore leading to consumer having no confidence whether he has a long-term sustainable TCO equation.
Right.
I think that confidence will come and some corporates like ours will jump into the game to say, let's establish ecosystem along with the government and some big companies. And then I can tell you the jump will be very fast. I call it as a hockey stick. Come 2025, in 3 years when this whole resolution will happen with this between the 4 stakeholders, the EV economy will, or hydrogen and any energy economy will jump. It's like telecom industry adoption. Telecom is no longer about the instrument. It's about the data.
Right.
EV, hydrogen, or any new energy vehicle is all about data. It will no longer be a transaction to say how much discount, what is the invoice value. It will become pay-per-use. It will become mobility as a service or vehicle as a service. Consumer will start paying monthly EMIs as a service on pay-per-use. Moment this happens, but he will not do this till all these 4 stakeholders talk to each other.
Sachin, you agree? Pay-per-use and probably with more data mining, the opportunities actually open up more. And I think we've already started hearing about insurance companies charging premium as per the vehicle usage from the consumers.
Yeah, so in last 1 year, right, the way the entire EV landscape has scaled up. In last year, I think so, more than 11 lakh vehicles of 11 lakh EVs have been sold, and this sector is growing at 150% plus. From a product perspective, if that's what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
From a product perspective, insurance companies have created tailor-made products specifically addressing the EV segment. In addition to the comprehensive cover that covers basically the damage to the vehicle, the third-party loss, the theft. In addition to that, specifically the motor cover, the battery cover, the entire battery management system, the charging infrastructure, these add-on covers have been created in the insurance industry as of now. Now, since the charging infrastructure is still not developed in the country the way it should be, there is specialized assistance services that are required. So there is a roadside assistance product that has been created in event of any battery dying down, right, while you're traveling. specialized mechanics are required with the technical know-how of EV. So all those products are in place. Since, as somebody was mentioning, that now the EV vehicles are more, they are more advanced. There's a lot of technology into it, right? The connected car facilities are there. There are a lot of telematics into the vehicles. There's a lot of data flowing, right, into the vehicle. There's the data syncing of customer details, address, and all of his information. So there is a risk of, there is a cyber risk. The loss of or the theft of data might happen. So there is a cyber cover also into place that we've already created. With telematics being there, we have created, the two products like, pay as you drive and pay how you drive. So based on the number of kilometers, so it's a limited liability product defined to a specific kilometers. So that can bring down the cost of the insurance. Right. Then pay as you drive. The customer's driving behavior patterns are captured in the telematics devices, basis which we can assess the risk and we can reward the safety driving of the customer in the form of a reduced premium. Right. Right. So all these products have already been created into the ecosystem as of now from the insurance.
A critical cog in the wheel of the overall ecosystem of EVs. Just final word from you, Mr. Vishnu, about, we are at a point where the industry is seeing significant amount of investment, and the responsibility also lies with a lot of stakeholders like policymakers in ensuring a conducive environment. How do you see the next 3 years, next 5 years from a electric vehicle production and ecosystem evolving in the state, in the country?
There are a couple of OEMs who have not yet entered Tamil Nadu. I saw a few of the CEOs here, Tata Motors, Toyota, and Maruti Suzuki. So if they come, we connect the dots. Tamil Nadu becomes the EV capital of not just India, but the whole world. I think that's where we're looking at from the manufacturing or the industry part of it. But more importantly, it's always been a chicken or egg story. More EVs, more charging, more EVs. This hide and seek game has been on for a while. But hopefully we should see an equilibrium soon in terms of where do we see the optimum number of chargers, so that there is a push or there's a nudge for more or a larger EV adoption, fleet adoption, both in public transport as well as passenger commercial transport. So I think with that equilibrium in place, TN will strive to become more greener. That's what our game is, because ultimately if your source of energy is not green, then the whole green energy story doesn't become the future story. So I think TN will be looking to increase the green share in its energy metrics, and at the same time move towards a true green zero state in its strictest sense. At the same time, invest in more technological advancement, like I earlier mentioned, move up the value chain and become a real global player and make the country proud. I think that's what the state I'm
We're running out of time. Final few words, Mr. Seth. We've seen waves. Is the curve upwards, or you see further disruptions?
No, I think we don't have a choice. It has to go in one direction only. The question is only the speed of adoption. Yeah. I feel 2025 is the tipping point, because a lot of things will fall in place by that time in terms of the cells will start getting manufactured in India. Hopefully the green hydrogen will start manufacturing. Stations will start coming up, swap stations or the charge stations, and the confidence of customers will start building up. Confidence will come from after-sales service, insurance, and finance. I think if you do that, this is not going to be stopped. Today we are 2-3%. If we go 20%, we're talking about 150 gigawatt of battery capacity requiring in this country.
Insane.
In cells. We don't have it today. But again, why people are not putting capex? Because they say, will the demand come?
Correct.
I always say demand will come. Did the planes come first or the runways came first? Now India, same in telecom. I think demand will get generated. We have to just get this hygiene factor in place. And hopefully with the localization of cells made in India and the other ecosystem, it is only a journey which will only go far. Only ways up.
Final word, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, on the
thank you. As a smart mobility solutions provider, we have the technology, whether it is EV or hydrogen, and we are fully prepared, and we are upskilling our employees, and we are ready to offer any product as per the market demand. At the same time, we are in the process of making our factory at Chennai as a smart, sustainable, very intelligent factory in the near future. So all the works are under progress. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, I mean, the only way is up, and all the stakeholders are committed for the future. Let's just wait and see how green we get by 2025. Thank you for listening in.